Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. If you feel you want to put in your camera, feel free to do so. We are recording this meeting, so just as an information in the beginning, and then we're going to get started as soon as everyone that wanted to join us is here with us. If you like, you can use the meantime to put maybe your name and if this is your first time at AUM, if you're joining the ODC Doctoral Consortium, and from where you're joining us in the chat. I think that if you use the chat, that would give us a really good overview of like who's actually in the room with us. So really excited to see. Okay, I think we have 15 people joining us. So if you'd, and we're hearing from the first ones. Danny is joining us from Holland. Then we have Julia joining us from Riga. Eva Maria joining us from Switzerland. Matthias joining us from Lüneburg. That's the same place where I'm at just now. Okay, feel free to continue post into the chat. Hi, Patrice. Nice to have you here with us.
Hi, Laura. Hi, everyone. Apologies, I have to have my camera off. Sorry about that. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Hi, Helena. You're joining from Sweden. That's awesome. Anna from Hamburg, Düsseldorf, and Clementine from Switzerland. All right. If you like, please keep going. This, I think, gives everyone a nice insight of like who's in the room. As I mentioned earlier, but just for anyone that joined now, this meeting is recorded. If you do feel comfortable, please feel free to switch your camera on. I think it kind of gives a little bit more like a nice vibe when we ask questions and go through things. So this is a pretty informal call just for this hour, really. And the idea behind it is to have like this kind of informal space to ask any questions you may have about AUM, about your first attendance. There's some things that I thought might be interesting for you. So just in terms of the topics I thought I'd cover with you, we're going to look at like what is AUM very briefly, what are the divisions, how can you maybe get most out of AUM, and what actually are the consortia, the symposia, and the other things that you see. And I'm very privileged that I'm here together with Danny, who is the PhD representative, the doctoral student representative at large currently for the ODC division. As well as with Patrice, who is the current chair of the division, as well as with David, who's responsible for a lot of all these webinars and things that you're seeing and all the things that actually happen in the background to manage that they actually take place. And they have all plenty of AUM experience, so that we can really get like kind of like a diversified insight into what the conference is about. Okay, maybe to get started, my first AUM took place during COVID in 2021. And at that time, I was literally just looking into what's actually going on there. And in hindsight, I found that super helpful because it kind of helped me to get a bit more of a background of what is this conference about. So at the time, I was a PhD student. I was at the end of my first year of the PhD, and I couldn't really grasp what this was about. So I obviously saw the website. I saw that a lot of people would go there and that you would maybe in comparison. So for my field, AUM and EGOS are the conferences that I'd mostly go to as the big ones. And for me, like I knew that paper, if I present a paper at AUM, it might be a little bit more developed than if I present something at EGOS, but that was kind of it, like where I was at with my knowledge. And so I try to kind of understand better what are actually things that that I should know about this place. And so this is how then later on I became the Doctor Representative at Large, the role Danny has now, and how we started this kind of round of people here to really help you ease into the conference and know a few things maybe beforehand that could be helpful to prepare you and get you ready for the conference. And one of the things that that I'd really like to stress is that a doctoral consortium can be a great place to get started because it provides this kind of safe space where you are together with other people that are doing their PhD and that are you're in a small group, and you kind of like have that protected space to kind of like learn more about the conference, ask your questions, and also learn like how your peers are navigating it. So really important is kind of like this kind of exchange of ideas. I thought I'd briefly start like just sketching out in very easy terms like what, from my understanding, AUM is, or how I make sense out of it, and what the divisions are. And then we can open it up to questions regarding symposia and all kinds of formats of things that you're interested in. So if you like, you can already also start putting questions in the chat. Then we're going to go through them. But of course, you can also raise your hand afterwards, and then we go through your questions. So AUM is the largest management conference there is. So there's a very international audience, and that means that there's a lot of different academic systems actually coming together in that conference. So it makes it really important to kind of understand, okay, how can I actually talk about my topic in a language that everyone gets? Because people come from very different programs and different ways of doing their PhDs, of doing their research. We talk about practitioners that are there. We talk about scholar practitioners that are there. We talk about scholars, people that are more into research, people that are more focused into teaching. So we have a very diverse community of people that actually comes to Academy of Management meetings. And I think that's kind of helpful to keep in mind when you think about what type of conference this is and how diverse it will be, who might be sitting in a certain session or whom you're seeing at a certain social. So a lot of people use these conferences to get a big and broad overview. So some of the things that I find very helpful is like, let's say I have a new paper project and I'd like to get some more ideas of where is the conversation at in this specific area. I would have a look through the program and kind of see what's out there in that specific field, and then go there and have some super easy help, like in terms of references, in terms of where the conversation is, to work on the papers afterwards. But AUM is also really like a place to connect with others. So that's why there's all these socials, like for example, from our division, from the ODC division. And it's a place to bring people together. And that brings me maybe to like, what are the divisions? So divisions are kind of like a bit like these different focus group that exists that would talk about what people that would feel similar about a certain topic or that are in a certain theoretic realm would go into and present their work in these groups, but also maybe feel that that's kind of like their scholarly home, if you will. So often people have like 1, 2, or 3 divisions they are part of. Very often one is maybe a bigger division, and then there's 1 or 2 smaller divisions that people are part of. And so, for example, the ODC division is one of these a bit smaller divisions. I'm going to put a link to the division in the chat if you want to have a look. So that means that it has the ability that you as a scholar can bring yourself in a lot. Like the bigger the division, of course, the more bureaucratized certain things are, but the smaller the divisions, it's often easier like to get to know more people in the divisions. So it depends a bit what you want to look for, what you're interested in, and that's based on your research as well as what you're interested in personally. So, do you want to find kind of people in your specific realm then go through the list of divisions and have a look what's out there. Then size-wise, maybe you're already member of a larger division and you're thinking, okay, what might be a smaller division where I could maybe be active or learn more about the academic system. And that is kind of ways how you can approach this. So this is just as a general insight, something that I wanted to share. And then I wanted to deep dive really into like how you can get the most out of AOM, like things like I just started to mention about going to a doctor consortium, why this could be helpful, these kind of things. And with that also explaining a little bit more what these different formats are that you find at AOM, from a PDW to a symposium, to a showcase symposium, to kind of panel talks, or the PhD consortium, junior faculty consortium, these kind of things. If you like, I'd like to invite you to put some questions in the chat, because it's not only me that's here today, but also some other people that are experienced with AOM. So if you have any questions, we can make sure to actually cover them. I think there's an echo just now. And then also, if you would like to raise your hand to ask a question, feel free to do so as well. Otherwise, I'm happy to just continue a little bit more my monologue, but I want to make this as helpful for you as possible. So really any questions about like how to start the attendance, what you think, like what you wonder about, like maybe what the PhD consortium is about, anything is welcome. Anyone that wants to get started? You can also put it in the chat. Otherwise, I can start with something that something that was very unclear to me was what these PhD consortium, for example, were for, and how I would decide to what kind of PhD consortium I'd go to. And I think what helped me there really was to kind of like just join one and see how it works in a division that I felt like was quite close to the topic that I was researching. So usually it kind of makes sense when you've made a decision what divisions you'd like to join, to try out within that academic home one of the consortiums. And for example, depending on what you want to do, if you're coming from a practice-based industry experience, or if you're coming more from a scholarly academic experience in terms of like you're solely doing research or you're mainly doing research, you might have chosen a division based on these interests. And then if you go to these PhD consortia, then you really get insight into what the division stands for, but you're also learning about like what this division specifically wants to tell you about. So for example, when I joined the ODC doctoral student consortium, something that I found very helpful was there was a panel about career paths, and there were people talking from very different career paths in academia. And until that stage of my academic life, I've only heard about very like straightforward approaches to it, where people would, do their PhD, do their research projects, and then at some point become tenured. While actually there I learned about a lot of different people that would go completely different paths in life and combine their passions, their practice experience with academia. And I found it just super interesting to learn that. And
Laura, I was just noticing we do have some questions popping up in the chat, and
yes,
maybe we could solicit some help from Patrice and from Danny, and maybe take just a minute to introduce these members of the board to help us answer those questions.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you so much, David. Patrice, would you maybe like to get started introducing yourself?
I'd be happy to, in perfect timing. I just arrived in a place where I can turn my camera on. It's great to see everyone here, Laura and David and Danny. Thanks for doing this. So I'm Patrice Rosenthal. I run 2 doctoral programs, ODC and Human Development, at Fielding Graduate University, which is based in Santa Barbara, California. I am the outgoing chair of the ODC division. So I'm in my final year of 5 of the board, and so excited to be finishing up in Copenhagen. Really, really happy. I'm in the process of packing, and we'll be leaving tomorrow. So I'm really, really happy to see that this meeting is going on. One of the key things about the ODC division, and it is a key fact about the Academy of Management, that it can be a lonely, difficult place to find connections, to figure out where you want to go next. One of the most important things about the ODC division is that we are a bridging division, that we are very relational. And it's one of the reasons that this meeting even is happening. And so I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to stop my self-introduction now and see what Laura wants to do next with regard to answering the questions or moving on to somebody else. But thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Patrice. I'd like you to have a look maybe at the questions in the chat. And in the meantime, I'd like to ask Danny to introduce himself. And then we can see how we're going to navigate all together through the different questions. All right, over to you, Danny.
Hello. Great to see you all today. Many familiar names, so that's great. I think we reached out to each other before for the QG consortium. So I'm based in the Netherlands. I'm the doctoral student rep of the ODC division. And together with Michael and Katrina, this year we are organizing the PhD consortium. I think we have a very interesting program. We also send the program to all the participants. And one of the highlights, I think, is the mentoring segment. So each student is paired with a very experienced and established scholar or scholar practitioner. And then you have 1 hour and 30 minutes together with another student to speak with that scholar about your own work. So I think also from my own experience 2 years ago, it's really great to have that time with a person and to really delve into your work and get tips and get new insights.
Thank you, Danny. Maybe you could have a look. There's some questions specifically regarding the consortium in the chat. So I would hand over to David to briefly introduce himself. And then maybe we could start specifically with these questions before diving in the other questions that I think everyone kind of has a certain take on. Over to you, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So my name is David Bright. I'm a former chair of the division. And stepped out of that role. What Patrice is doing right now, I stepped out of that role about 4 years ago, and ever since I've been serving as the division operating officer, and so I'm responsible for kind of the non-programmatic aspects of the division, and it's a role that I've really relished. So doing webinars like this, among other things, is within my area of responsibility currently. And I just say one invitation I'd extend to all of you, if you'd like to be involved in the division in any way, we have a number of volunteer opportunities. All of us are volunteers. We have a number of roles that we would love to have some assistance in addressing. So I just want to welcome you all, and look forward to meeting you in Copenhagen.
All right. Thank you so much, David. I'm just going to put a link in the chat, actually, where you can, if you like, and you want to present your research in one of these smaller webinars that we have here, you can go into the Google form link, have a look at this and see if you'd like to fill it out. So I'm going to put that in the chat, and I would now first hand over to Danny to focus on the questions regarding the doctoral consortium. So for example, there was a question from Julia, actually, what is the format of a doctoral consortium or consortium in general? Then there was also a question from Marcela regarding, do we have an opportunity to speak with editors during the doctoral consortium? And there was a question regarding the mentoring. So if you'd like just to start with these, and then of course everyone can add into them, that would be super helpful. And then we can open it to the more general AOM questions afterwards for David, Patrice to join in as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So great questions. Thank you all for asking those questions. Regarding the mentoring sessions, so there is not one clear way of doing this. I think it depends on the mentor. So the process is as follows: following all the mentors, they got your work and they're reviewing your work, and they bring your work with the review with the comments to the consortium, and then the segment will start. Maybe some they will reach out to you to people before the consortium, and others they do not. And if you want, I can also provide you with the email addresses. Then you can reach out to your own mentor. Maybe that's nice. Also, before the mentoring section, there is a short break. And also the short break you can use to have a kind of informal chat with your mentor. So that's also, I think, nice to learn a bit more about your mentor. How well did I answer your question, Celine?
Celine just put in the chat that answered her question. Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add to that just a little
Please.
bit? So I have had the privilege of serving as a mentor for several years, and I know Patrice has as well. And I believe Laura has also joined that group. So I think Danny's description of how that works, it's very helpful. And just from my own approach, we do have the time in session where we will have a chance to talk with you and get to know you in person, and be delighted to follow up with you after that, if that would be helpful. So, as I recall, I don't know how you're organizing it this year, Danny, but typically we'll we'll divide up into groups where the mentors and the participants have a conversation together, and we have at least 45 minutes or so to go through the work. So I think is that aligned with how you're doing it this year?
Yeah, so totally have 90 minutes, but for 2 students. So each student has about 45 minutes indeed. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, Patrice, do you have anything to add to this one? Otherwise, I would have a different question for you, but I wanted to first give you the chance if you'd like to add something to the doctoral consortium questions.
Yeah, I think maybe the only thing I would add is just how much the mentors, they're all volunteers, but how much they enjoy this aspect of the consortium. And we hear year on year that the consortium works really, really well historically. I think those of you who are going to attend it are going to enjoy it and get a lot out of it. We typically hear that it's the mentoring section that is the most powerful. Why wouldn't it be? Because there you have the opportunity to talk with someone outside your local place, outside your dissertation committee, who's engaged in asking you interesting and hopefully helpful questions about your research. And David is right. Sometimes it's the case that we stay engaged, mentor, mentee, for a longer period. So I think those of you who are coming to the consortium will like it a lot. If there's anybody on this call who's not coming to the consortium, maybe you didn't apply in time or didn't think about it. Think about it for the following year. It's a really powerful way to get and feel connected to the ODC division, which is a very important resource in terms of being connected to Academy of Management more generally. So I can't talk about it highly enough, and the mentoring system, the mentoring process highly enough. I'm looking at a couple of these other good questions. Julia was asking about the acronyms. Yes, all over the program, everywhere you look in AOM, everything is conveyed by an acronym. So we are the ODC division, and then there are many, many others. All of them pretty much, I think, are either 2 letters or 3 letters. So I've put in the response to that good question a link to the AOM site, the specific site which has a listing of all of the different divisions and their acronyms. It's good to know that, because as you look on the program, you may be aligned we hope you are aligned. We assume you are since you're here with the ODC division. You can search the program by division. So you can go in and look and see all of the different PDWs and papers and consortia and meetings of various kinds that are happening just for ODC. But you'll also see that most, not the papers so much, but most of the other types of meetings sometimes are sponsored by one division, but a set of other divisions also kind of join into that. And we do that during an earlier process. So you may be an ODC person, but also an OB person. You may be an ODC person, but also an OMT person. So you want to be able to see on the program the interest, the divisional interest that will be represented by particular types of meetings. So that's really, really important. So I hope you'll grab that link and have a look at it. Laura, do you want me to do one more question that I'm seeing?
Thank you, Patrice. That's been so insightful. Maybe there is a question about networking that I thought we could maybe get everyone's
Fantastic.
take on,
Sure.
and maybe you could go ahead with that one.
You want me to go ahead with that one now? Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll do that in a very particular way. Networking is so important. And you have to do it. You have to do it. For some of us, it comes naturally and easily, and others of us have to develop that orientation and that skill. So coming to the Academy of Management, that is a key skill for anyone in their earlier career. It's a key skill for anyone, no matter what place they are at in their career. So you want to come with that as a key intention. The consortium, if you're joining it, will provide lots of opportunities for networking. You want to be ready to come up to people and present yourself and have your elevator speech ready when they ask you what is your interest. You also want to go to spaces which are kind of put together for networking purposes. And I have a very good one for you, and I'm about to put it in the link. You may not be able to see it, but if you pop it open, you will. You are all invited, warmly invited, to the ODC Social, which will take place on Monday at 6:30. It's going to be off-site, so it won't be at the Bella Center. We're going to be at the Danish Architectural Museum, and it should be a lot of fun. We're very excited about it. So one thing to mark in your programs is a set of events that happens on Monday, all about the ODC division. You want to get engaged in our division, and we want you to stay members of our division even after you finish the consortium. So on Monday will occur the ODC business meeting and social. That might sound a boring, sorry, not the social, the ODC business meeting and awards. If you see business meeting, it might look kind of boring, not something that should capture your time. Quite the contrary. That should be one of the main things that you want to come to for networking purposes. Lots of people will be there. We give a report out to the ODC members about what's happened, what we've offered, how many submissions we have, a whole range of things. And then it's given over to a set of awards, paper awards and division service awards of various kinds. That's a good networking opportunity. That will be followed by the Distinguished Speaker Award. You want to come to that. And then we're all going to go off-site to this social. I'll put in the name of the distinguished speaker in a moment, but we're going to go off-site to the social, and that is a place for lots and lots of networking. So any division social is a good place to go and meet people, and the ODC is the best one of all. So I've popped in the program snippet where you can see what time, what day, and where we're going to be. David and Danny and Laura, what else might be useful to say about networking, which is so important? It's like one of the purposes of coming to AOM. What else can you think of maybe that would be helpful?
I just say that one of the most powerful ways of doing networking is to go participate in sessions that have titles of papers or of sessions that really appeal to you. You will find that the like-minded people are in those. And the easiest thing to do is to approach the presenters afterwards and just share something that you appreciated about what they talked about. Maybe ask them a question, and then ask them if they'd be willing to correspond with you after the annual meeting, and get their contact information. That is one of the easiest, most natural ways to build your network of connections with people who are doing work that seems parallel to yours. And so I would encourage you to use that process. And what I've found at the Academy of Management is that it's a rare person. In fact, I've never been turned down for contact information if I've asked. And it's a natural outgrowth of the conversation. So people are very approachable, very nice in general. And so it takes a little bit of effort, but go to sessions that align with yours, much like Laura said, and then ask questions after the session is over of people who are there.
Yeah, and also enjoy the process. This is a big opportunity to meet your heroes in real life, and to speak with them, to ask them questions, read their work, and ask questions about their work, and share your thoughts, share your reflections. Yeah, people are really friendly and very warm in contact.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. I know I said it before, but you will have a chance to meet people that are names in your field. People who are prominent authors or researchers, and don't be shy about approaching them, introducing yourself, telling them something about how their work has influenced yours, a question you might have that's emerged from their work, even beyond what they present. And you'll be surprised at how responsive they tend to be. So
thank you. I can just echo these points, and maybe to add, for me, it's sometimes I can be a little bit shy in these situations. So something that really helped me, for example, is then the PhD doctoral consortium, because often you're sitting in round table situations. For example, for the mentoring session, you're sitting with one mentor and a student. So my goal normally is to make 2 new contacts at a conference. If I make more, that's great, but I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. So for example, if you go to a doctoral consortium and you speak to one other colleague on your current career level and your mentor, and you manage to maybe, exchange contact details there, stay in contact, then you already have achieved maybe this kind of networking. So I think you have to find a way of that works for you. And for some, that might be more on the peer level. And I met very good friends that I know some of my closest friends through these kind of events. And that's, I think, something very beautiful in our profession, that we can then work on projects actually together with colleagues that become friends. And that's also one of these beauties from smaller divisions. Oh, I think that's one of the, so I think there was just one microphone not muted. Sorry for the interruption. That's just one of the pleasures, especially also with the smaller divisions, that you can really, get to know a lot of people. And for example, at the social that Patrice mentioned, I met someone that I very randomly met again at my current university. I met this person in Seattle, actually, I think, yes, a few years back at AUM. At this ODC social, and then met the same person again last year in March at my current university, Leuphana University in Germany. So, you get to know people, and then at places you might not think of, you see them again. And that can be really nice. I'm just having a look at the chat again. There was a question from Julia regarding if the social on Monday does require any pre-registration, Patrice.
It does not. It does not. Open invitation. So there's information there on the in the program, which I've screenshot and popped in, which tells you where it is. For the first time, the social is off-site from the conference center. Usually when we're meeting in hotels, it's in one of the rooms. So we are going to give some suggestions at the end of the distinguished speaker talk about kind of groups moving from the Bella Center over to the Danish Architectural Museum. So I think there's some groups that are going to be going on bikes, walking, various kinds of ways. So no registration, only interest and some conveyance to get you from the Bella Center over to the site. We'd love to see you there.
Thank you for sharing. David?
I was just going to say, Laura, we have some other questions about the format of the program. Might be helpful for us to answer. So would you mind if I tackle that one? I think the question was from
No, that's perfect. That's
really about PDWs, consortia, paper sessions, etc. So let me just start by saying that annual meeting is organized really into two overall segments with a few subsegments in between. So Friday and Saturday are generally considered to be the PDW portion of the program. A PDW stands for Professional Development Workshop. Professional Development Workshop, and coincidentally, our division pioneered that about 3 days ago. So that's a format that has been adopted by the entire Academy of Management. But the PDW sessions occur on Thursday, or on Friday and Saturday, and there are some highlighted ones on Sunday. And then the scholarly sessions run from Sunday through Tuesday. And scholarly sessions generally come in two different varieties. You have paper sessions, which are where people have submitted formal papers for a formal review. Many of you have probably done this. And then those that are accepted are packaged into sessions with other papers that may or may not be similar, but they're all contributed individually for consideration and presentation at the Academy. The other variety of session is called a symposium session, and a symposium is a collated or curated set of presentations that where the authors have coordinated to put together a more refined package of messaging or ideas or theoretical exploration. And so those tend to be a little bit more well thought through as far as how the formats are, how the format of how you're going to start it, how you're going to engage the audience, how you're going to present some ideas. So those are the two different varieties of sessions that occur. Again, Friday, Saturday is the PDW segment, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the scholarly program. And then we have other events kind of interwoven all through those, which include the socials that Patrice talked about and business meetings. There's also caucuses, which is kind of a more ad hoc conversation. Just somebody said, I'd like to talk about, name the topic, and anybody who wants to can join me. And usually they designate a room or a space where you can join in. And then I believe here for the first time, we're doing poster sessions as well. And those are, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe those are part of the scholarly program and will or be available on Monday and Tuesday. So those are the main features of the annual meeting. Patrice, Danny, Laura, have I missed anything major as far as that overview?
I don't think you've missed anything major, but I would add just one note about PDWs, because they're sort of different in kind from, just as David has said, from the other types of sessions. And again, I can remember way back coming to my first Academy of Management meeting and being kind of surprised by the different types. So PDWs, as David said, the ODC division did pioneer that, and now they're a feature now, they're a structure in the Academy of Management. I would say that they're particularly kind of important in the ODC division for a particular reason. Our division is particularly focused on notions of rigor and relevance. Our division is particularly focused on looking for connections between theory, research, and practice, asking questions from practice, research being impactful in some kind of way. And that's a distinctive thing, I think, about our division. And PDWs often are about that in some kind of way. That might be the named focus of the session, or it might be more implicit. And so if you come to a PDW, know that they are intended, they aren't always, but they are intended to be interactive in some kind of way. So they're intended to be a situation where you're not sitting back kind of listening to a set. Oftentimes they approach that. So there will be panels because we have time constraints. But if you come to a PDW, you can assume that there will be opportunities for interactivity, for your voice to be in the room in some kind of important ways. There's supposed to be kind of takeaways, tips, observations, that kind of thing. So those are often more informal, kind of livelier, because of their purpose. And I think the ODC division has always, each year on year, has a particularly good slate of PDWs. I know they do this year because I'm in a lot of them, and Danny is with me in a couple of them. So I know that we're going to have a few excellent sessions, and no doubt Laura and actually I'm with David on a couple of them as well. So we hope to see you in some of those PDWs, but just understand that they're a bit different. They're a bit different in kind, and they're special, I think, to ODC.
Maybe also to add regarding the PDWs, while you apply for a paper that you would want to present normally in January with the deadline, and we said already earlier, like the PhD doctor consortium for most divisions is between like March to May-ish, where you can apply. For the PDWs, there's normally like when you get communication from the listserv, all these kind of like advertisement emails that you get from AUM divisions where you have signed up. So that's where you would see over all of spring, and sometimes even now, some information for PDWs you can join. Some of them are just open and you can walk in. Some of them will give you a certain deadline where you have to send in like 1,000 words for a project because you're actually gonna have some roundtable sessions and get feedback. And others have like a split. So one session is open to the public, like the first part, and then the second one is more for people that have already been working on the area and that have submitted something to it. So that can actually be really nice, especially when you're starting and you might think, okay, with a paper project, I'm not yet so far, because for AUM, you would normally submit quite developed projects, but maybe, with one of your papers, you feel like already, or you're starting a new paper, you feel like you're ready for that PDW kind of environment. And then that's really a nice way to engage there and get to know people and get to know the conference. So I think that's actually a really helpful one. Also regarding the networking question that came earlier.
Just a quick note there. What Laura said, I think, is very important. And just for kind of reassurance, if a PDW or if any kind of session required registration ahead of time, that will be noted in the program. And so have a look as you're building your program. You don't want to try to get into a session that was pre-registered just because you won't get in. But you can be assured that if it was pre-registered, then it'll note that in the program, so you'll know ahead of time.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Patrice. I'm just going through the other questions, and there were 2 questions about general, like meet the editor sessions that I've seen. So there was one placed by Leo that I'm just scrolling back to. And there was also one earlier placed. So the one from Leo was, while looking through the program, I wasn't able to find the Meet the Editor session. Do you have any idea where, when they take place? And there was another one regarding editors asking if in a doctoral consortium you'd meet any editors. If anyone maybe would like to take that question and guide people into the right direction.
Danny,
Regarding the... Oh, David, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Danny, I think you have the answer to this question.
Yeah, regarding the consortium, I'm not sure who is editor and who is reviewer and who is not, but there are many experienced people who are participants in the consortium. So many are reviewers and editors, so you can definitely ask those kinds of questions to those experienced people. Yes.
I can add more directly that that we decided a few years ago, we used to have meet the editor section in our consortium program. And based on feedback from those who went through, we decided to take it off the program, just in preference for some other types of opportunities for you. And so there isn't a dedicated one. There used to be, we haven't done it for a while, but Danny is absolutely right. The mentors, for the most part, all will be, if not editors, they'll be reviewers for, and I'm thinking of a few off the top of my head, there'll be reviewers for many journals. So be assured that you will have a lot of engagement and access with those types of people. However, and I just say this because the question came up a few times, we decided a few years ago that in the consortium, it just kind of opportunity cost not to have a dedicated session, but they're there all around you the whole day.
And also maybe two particular segments. So one is building your identity, and the other one is the nasty friends segment. Also, in those moments, you can ask all your questions about for reviewers, for editors. So
Thank you very much. And then another open question that I think we kind of answered, but just to maybe emphasize that a bit more, was regarding, will all sessions for all divisions be in one building, like the Bella Center? And I think that's kind of answered now by, for example, that the social will take place as one of the museums. So normally when you look at the program, you're going to see, and make sure to check, because sometimes you have to travel, if things will be at different places. So a lot of these events will take place at the Bella Center, but some things might be in the city and then in different locations in the city, so that you have a chance before or while building your program to put things into Google Maps or any other kind of software to get an idea if you can walk, if you need public transport, and how you can actually get from A to B. Because if you do have registered for something, then for example, for PDW, then it's really important to be there on time, because kind of people have maybe matched you with others for roundtable sessions or other things. And so it's just really important to be collegial and be there for the sessions on time if you can. So normally, for example, Marcella put in the chat the Organizational Development and Change Division Doctoral Consortium that we were talking about so much. So here you would see under the name of it, the location, which would be for this event, the Bella Center, and then where it would be in the Bella Center. So you can get an idea when you look at the plan, if you go to the login page for IOM this year, where this actually would be and how easily accessible this is for you. So that's really something I would want to stress enough, that you really want to make sure you actually manage to get from A to B, or especially in the morning if you have to go for the first time and have to print your badge. There was a lot of information about this. You can print your badges from first day onwards. So to do that as early as possible, because it might be that you're waiting in a line at these printers and then you haven't thought about that time before, and then you're late for your first event because you haven't printed that ahead of time. So it's a big conference. There's lots of people, so try and plan with buffers there, I would say.
I'd just also add, Laura, that just in general, each division has a space, a general space that's assigned to them. So most of the events for any division tend to be in the same building or same area of a building. So you can kind of figure that out by looking at the program, and then there will be exceptional events like a social or a dinner or a tour, things like that. They're not in that area, but the majority of events for any particular division tend to take place in the same general area.
Thank you very much for emphasizing that. I think that's all the questions that are so far in the chat answered. If there's any other questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand here and you can directly speak if you feel comfortable to. Otherwise, I'm just having a look at like the topics that I wanted to focus on. And one kind of key question that I had, and I thought maybe to take the insights on from Danny, David, and Patrice, is how to make the most out of AOM. I think that's a very personal one, and you know, everyone has a different approach there, but I'd really like to listen to your different approaches, and maybe we could go clockwise. For me, that would be Danny first, then David, then Patrice, and then I'm happy to do a closing there.
So the way I approach, let's say, the big schedule is using different searching strategies. I normally begin with the names, so the famous and less famous scholars in my field. I'm searching if they have sessions, and then I put them on my schedule. The other one is also look to your favorite divisions. For me, it's ODC and OMT. Also now I'm in what stadium are you? So I'm also now about theorizing and publishing. So also look for sessions who are going about theorizing, about analysis, about publishing, etc. And then it's also a matter of making really painful choices, because it's such a rich program that you cannot attend all the very great sessions. So make wise decisions, and you will definitely miss a lot of important sessions, but that's how it is.
So the way I approach it is to start with all of the events that I'm committed to be either a presenter or participate in, and I make sure I plot those out and figure out where they're going to be. The next thing I filter in to build my schedule would be the social event I want to make sure to participate in or support. And then if I have open time, I might decide on some sites that I might want to visit, because usually I have very limited time to see the city that I always choose at least one thing to go to. So I'm going to do that on Sunday, this trip for maybe 2 hours. And then I just ask, all right, are there people that I would like to interact with? Friends I haven't talked with for a long time, or authors that I'd like to meet. And I might write them ahead of time and just suggest, I'm interested in your work. I noticed that you're going to appear on the program. Would you be willing to meet with me for, a breakfast or for half an hour over, a drink or something, and just meet? And it's remarkable how many people will reply yes. And then finally, I will do what Danny has said and kind of look through the program. Any places that I might want to go, I might create some options for what I would want to see at what time. Now that, let me just simply say, that's if I'm being thorough and like really planning out a true complete schedule. But those are some things that I have done in the past that work well for me. There's no lack of things to do if you are intentional about how you approach the annual meeting.
Danny and David said a lot of things I would have said. I'll just underscore a couple. Make a program. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made early in my attendance at AOM is I thought I'll figure out like where I want to go once I get there. And once you get there, it's just overwhelming. It really is huge. There's a lot of people, and this AOM is particularly large. There are going to be more people. If people show up, there are going to be more people even than in years past. So make a program, even if you don't follow it to the letter. Make sure that you've built a personal program utilizing the kind of tips and the strategies that David has used. I think maybe it's good just to make a point that it can be overwhelming. I agree with David that a lot of academics are kind of surprisingly responsive. A lot of them aren't. One of the reasons I love the ODC division is that we are relational. We really are relational. There's a warmth in the division that you don't find in all divisions in AOM, and it's why a number of people have us as one of their have us as one of their two, and why we hear, especially for younger scholars coming through, they often use ODC kind of as a bridge. So just to be aware that there's some variation in warmth in the division. There's some variation in the amount of time and attention that more prominent people, that you might be particularly keen to engage with. They're often very, very busy and oversubscribed. So just to kind of know that, but put yourself out there. Give it a go. I think maybe the thing I would add is just make sure that you have a sense, at least a starting sense, of good opportunities for you, mainly to go to papers, to learn things, to get references, to see people that you're reading in person, see what their kind of style is, to make those connections, but also to make a kind of wider set of connections. And one really good resource that we haven't mentioned yet, I'll just mention this and then pass back to Laura, is a few days ago, if you're on the ODC listserv, you should be on the listserv, a really great communication came out from Jody, who is our program chair for this year, Jody Hoffer-Gattel. And it's a long, kind of beautiful thing that is showing all of the opportunities associated with the ODC division, all of them. And you can see pictures of people who are there. You can see where they're going to take place. There are a lot of things that we haven't had a chance to mention yet on this call. A Rigor and Relevance Award thing that's going to happen, all sorts of great opportunities. Make sure you open that, go back, it was just a couple of days ago, find it and make sure that you've got that there so you can coordinate that with this program that you're building.
Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. I think most of the things are being said. Maybe to add, I would also really think about, like Danny said earlier, and Patrice just mentioned that as well, if you have certain projects you're working on, like maybe to get references or to understand what the conversation is, like depending on where you are in the stages of your paper, like think about that beforehand and then have a look. Maybe there's an author that you're citing a lot in your current draft, and you actually can go to a session of that author and see what are they working on now? What is this scholar working on? Am I kind of like ahead of that conversation? Am I contributing to that conversation, to see where your own work is going? So this can be really helpful in more developed stages as well as early development stages. And then another one would be, for me, like in the beginning, I put my program very full, because especially like coming from Europe, when the conference was in the US, I was thinking, okay, I'm going there. It's an expensive conference. I need to take everything from it that I can. But I realized later on, I do need to have this little buffer times, for example, for maybe a more extensive lunch, where I could also meet a co-author or have a breather if like the morning sessions were maybe quite intense or stuff. So try and build like a program where you might have the different alternatives in where you want to go to, and you have a good overview for yourself, that you, as it was said, don't have to spend time on that, but also to kind of feel like what's a program you can actually manage, that you feel like this is really helpful and I can contribute and be active when I'm there, but it's something I can manage. So I think that's really important. And then maybe before we come to the closing, and I see that David has already put like a closing question in the chat, like what's your favorite or your most meaningful takeaway from the session? So Marcela already started to answer. Please feel free to follow. I just thought, because we use the term listserv, if we could maybe explain, how actually someone would get these emails, what you have to do to get there. I thought that might be a nice thing of closing. And then I hope we see each other at some of the ODC events at AOM. Maybe David, if you'd explain briefly the listserv and how it works.
Yeah, so the listserv is a mailing list that connects to all individuals who have expressed an interest in receiving messages from the ODC division, whether they are members or not. And currently we have about 2,600 people who are on that list. So if there's something that you would like to advertise or just share with a broad group of individuals who have an alignment with the ODC division, then you can use that list or send a message out. And that is available through the ODC website. There is a link in the upper right corner of that site that will take you to the community resources and to the listserv. And you can see that at the top of the page. So anybody can post that, and if questions, you can contact any member of the board about how to do it, particularly myself or Ignacio Pavis, who is our communications director.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for putting your insights that you took away from the session in the chat. As it was already said, we're always approachable. So do join some of our meetings. Do feel free to get connected via LinkedIn or reach out via email. And really happy that you joined us today, and wishing all of you a really good consortium maybe, and especially AOM, and hope to see you there in Copenhagen. So safe travels, everyone. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you so much for joining.
Yes.
Patrice.
All right. Well, I think it's just
Okay.
us now.